Hey guys, it's Virile Core back on our Card Vanguard deck before. So if you guys enjoyed, I'm talking about Scott sorry. This time we're covering Keter Sanctuary DZ set 5 for Sarevsael. So Sarevsael was, okay, I'm not going to say it was the grade 3 I was the least interested in going into the DZ set start bosses. That honor would go to Marlene and or Resurgent Dragon. But Sarevsael was definitely not my first choice in terms of main grade 3s. And then it actually became my favorite one when we checked out DZ set 1. And then slowly over time, as I've added more cards to it, I've really enjoyed this deck because you can just superior call stuff from the drop zone, get really good attackers, get really good all-around board consistency, and if you want to throw in the Keter package, you kind of can, but I don't know, this deck feels like it has its own like kind of consistency they don't really want to mess with. So let's get the start and see what we got. First today we have our energy generator. It's our ride deck crest. Do you mind ride deck crest ride deck auto ride? When you put this card into your crest zone, you can energy charge 3 for 1 second. Continues to map to 10 energies on beginning of ride phase, energy charge 3, then act once per turn, energy boss 7, draw a card. Arm pretty solid, you know, you get a free 3 energy every turn. If you hit second, you get extra 3 on top of that, and if you end up having extra energy overall, you will never have that in a deck that, you know, involves the Vanguard energy bossing 4 every turn. But if you did end up having extra energy, you can energy blast 7 to draw a card and hopefully increase your hand to give you units that can win you the game with. All around, the energy generator is a very important card in this deck since again the main grade 3 does require energy, so it's a ride deck crest for us. Moving on, we have our starter in Wings of Aspiration Sarevsael, Grid Zone Boost, 5k show, 6k base, auto, when road upon for second draw card, standard starter, next spot, free draw if you go second. You can make this any starter you want, none of the ride line requires this. I choose to make it Soa because he is the canonical starter for Sarevsael, and honestly, I've begun to like Soa a lot as a starter. Maybe Soa is the reason why I like Sarevsael so much, because I played it when Sarevsael came out. I liked the way the Sarevsael deck worked because I gave all of the DZ set start bosses kind of similar decks when DZ set 1 came out. I ran their respective grade 2 cycler card, I ran the respective really good grade 2, I ran the trial deck superior call targets, etc., and like their persona ride support cards. But I don't know why Soa felt like it made the difference for the deck, so one of Soa in the ride deck. Moving on, we have our triggers and True Arbitrator Dragon of 100 Swords Sarevsael. Grid Zone Boost 50k Shield, 5k Power, Overtrigger, Overtrigger in your deck. Remove it as to remove that card, draw a card, choose what it means. It gets plus 1 for the turn. If it draw check, activate its additional advantage until end of the turn. You can also perform draw checks with battles your rear guards attack. Okay, if you planned it out ahead of time to sack the over, you could technically get a total of 6 tuple drive going out, which is all around pretty solid. But 9 times out of 10, you're probably only going to get 3 drive checks, maybe 2, depending on what your board presence is. But Durv also being able to help increase your hand is great. If you want to get more consistent multi-attack with this deck, you can use something like Walnut or the Dark Overtrigger for healing and superior calling, or if you want to use recycling and crit pressure, you can use Isphoria as well. I used to make a Durv also because I like running the Nation Overtriggers, and honestly I like Durv also a lot more than like Armatinoa. The Armatinoa is proving a stronger case lately because he seems to show up more than Durv also nowadays, but one of Durv also in the deck, I just like having him. When we have our normal triggers, we run 3 copies of Protection Magic Proby, Grid Zone Boost, 5k Shield, 4k base, contains Guard Circle, opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, he gets 5,000 shield. So 5,000 shield, it's nice to have for extra guard power. It's also a draw trick, so it helps increase your hand. And with this deck, again I say, the deck feels like it had this weird consistency where I can just consistently superior call this and have good guard power. So being able to stack extra guard power on top of that, or just like be really aggressive in the early game, and then Proby tends to get me out of my hand problems by just being a draw trigger, is nice to have. So I like having 3 copies of him. And then obviously you have a total of 8 crits, 4 copies of Chevalmia, Grid Zone Boost, 15k show, 5k power. You can make this any crit you want. I just used to make a Chevalmia because it is the canonical crit for Sarevsael since it came out in the same deck as it. So yeah, again, you can run any crit you want, but just to make a Chevalmia because it came out in the same set. Then we have Blade for the Dragon, Grid Zone Boost, 15k show, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear guard when this unit boosts, or at the end of this unit boosted, shove the soul, 2k for the turn. Okay, give someone 2k. Depending on what's on your board, that 2k honestly might make the difference, but you're really running for the soul skill because we do have 2 very important soul blasters, technically 3 very important soul blasters in this deck. So you could possibly run into a soul problem, so being able to increase your soul is nice, and this deck can constantly superior call stuff from drop zone. So worst case scenario, if you need to call Blade Feather from drop zone after guarding with it, you can and still get soul out of it. It's all around very nice card for pressure, so a total of 8 crits. Followed by our 4 heals and Bringer of Distant Sounds around us. Grid Zone Boost, 15k show, 5k power. You can really make this any heal you want. Again, just like Chevalmia, because it came out in the same deck as Sarevsael did. I just used to make it around us as the heal trigger. But again, you can run any heal. You can even run the counter heals, but I would prefer just a normal heal in general, just because I like the consistent 15k shield or the fluctuating 10, 25k shield. But again, you do you. Moving on to our grade 1s, we have 3 copies of Painkiller Angel, Grade 1 Boost, 5k shield, 8k base, so this is Soul Blast problem number 1. Auto Rear Guard, I have this unit boosted, Soul Blast 1, retire this unit, draw a card. I hate it when people ran Painkiller like in set 1, or pretty much the entirety of like the original D series before we got to DZ, just because like A, I saw it everywhere, and then B, I don't like running cards that like don't fit the necessary theme of the deck. But now that we have an Angel main grade 3, I don't know why, I love spamming Painkiller in this deck, and I love using using her skill. Considering the fact that this deck can just make rear guards out the wazoo consistently and almost always have a full board, I can just call Painkiller in the early game, attack with her. If my opponent doesn't kill her, move her to the back row, recreate a board, boost with her. She dies at the end of that battle. I draw a card. On the next turn, Sarevsael swings. I possibly call her back and get more draws out of it. All-around Painkiller is a very solid great one to have. I love her. She helps increase the hand, and the only downside is she's cost a Soul Blast, but she also opens up your board as well, so if your opponent gets benefit out of retiring your rear guards, F them. So 3 copies of Painkiller. Very nice card for early game rush, but also just, boosting power and increasing hand cards. Then we have 4 copies of Surgical Scissors Angel. Okay, so Ursa Large didn't have this, and I will say it again, the reason why Ursa Large had in this and Triumph Dragon do have the grade 1 promo is because I only run promos once we have confirmed notice of their release in English, but to be even more specific on top of that, if we have a confirmed English art, then I will run it. And in this case, Sarv also did have it, and I'm really happy he does. For the record, the match that I did on camera with this deck, it did not have I don't think it had Surgical Scissors Angel. I did play this deck with it, I just didn't have it in that matchup, because at that time, we did not have the English art. But anyway, Surgical Scissors Angel is a grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto drops it when your grade 3 grade of Vanguard Surf also in the card name is placed during your ride phase, whether it's from ride deck or Persona ride. If you do not have a rear guard with the same card name as this unit on the board, Soul Boss 1 calls card to rear guard circle if you call it energy charge 1. Cool. So he turns your energy 3 every turn to an energy 4, meaning you can actually afford to use Surf also skill as much as you want, which is great. Following that, his second ability is Auto Rear Guard. At the end of battle, that he boosted a unit with Virile Core in the card name. By putting this unit to soul, choose one of your boosted rear guards and return it to your hand. Downside is it specifically has to boost Virile Core, so unless you have a unit that changes name to Virile Core or that can make units have the same name, for example, Ida from Neonectar all the way back in G, it's always going to only bounce to grade 3, but on the bright side, this is a grade 3 that A, can call rear guards, B, it gets rid of your opponent's attack target, and C, the most important part, this unit gets you soul, and you can do a fun little combo with this where you boost Virile Core with Scissors Angel, do whatever Virile Core skill you want, then you use Scissors Angel, send itself to soul, bounce core back, and then you boost your other column with Painkiller, blast out Scissors, draw a card, and then if your opponent doesn't kill you next turn, Persona ride with the Sarevsael, you probably search off of Sarevsael's skill, Soul Boss 1, call this boy, call Virile Core, rinse, Ross, repeat. All around, very solid grade 1, get you soul, get you rear guards back to hand, even if it's only a grade 3 rear guard. Not to mention the fact it can superior call itself once you start riding grade 3s consecutively, and it will always get you a free energy every single time you do that, and he just looks really cool. I love his glorious white wings, making him an easy floor for me. Really great grade 1. Then we have 4 copies of Light Arrow of Assistance Turot. This is the card, and I think I know why I like this deck so much, specifically in set 5. This is the card that ultimately made me do deck profiles for DZ set 5 decks. Or not decks, specifically the start deck bosses. Because originally, Triumph Dragon, Cristonios, all of them, they were supposed to get deck profiles in set 4. But I got lazy and I completely forgot to do them. And this set, I just wasn't going to do them at all because there was only one card I was going to run from each of those sets, and it was going to be this card. But then A, we got news of the promo, and then B, this specific grade 1, I really wanted to test out for Sarevsael, so I threw it up against a matchup of whoever I threw it up against, probably Granzel Rotovisor, and then I had a lot of fun with it, so then I decided to do it for the other decks as well. So Turot is a grade 1 with boost 5k shield, 8k base, continues rear guard to guard circle. If you have a grade 3 grade of Vanguard Sarevsael in the card name, this unit gets intercept, can intercept from back row, and gets 5000 shield. 10k shield, interceptor, and interceptor from back row as well, with a deck that, and just Keter in general, being able to superior call a bunch of units, but with this deck that can call from drop zone as well, makes it really good because an extra shield, and like if you know me, you can early game rush with this, call it down to rear guard circle along with Painkiller, and this is mainly discard fodder until grade 3, but call along with Painkiller, bully down your opponent, and then when the late game starts coming around, or even the mid game, you can move these to the back row, and then you got a bunch of interceptors for game. All around Turot is an amazing grade 1 to have. She has this extra shield, which is nice for an early game rush player. She can intercept, and not to mention that she's a really good aggressive card in the early game as well, because if your opponent doesn't kill her, well, you're going to defend with her later on. If they do kill her then, well, you're at lower damage when your opponent eventually hits you with big attacks. So all around 4 for her, and if you were looking forward to the DZ set start bosses getting set 5 deck profiles from my channel, you can thank her for that, because she's the ultimate reason why I did these deck profiles. So 4 of her. Then we have 4 copies of Bringer Protection Keflon, who I don't know why. Every time I look at Keflon, maybe it's the fact that 3 of these in a row have, or 4 of these in a row, all of them have wings, so maybe that's why I like Keflon so much in this deck, or why I feel like it fits here. But anyways, I really like this PG. Grade 1 boost, 0 souls, 6k base, continue set throwing back to 4 Sentinels, and deck and also put on guard circle. Choose 1 mutes that cannot be hit to the battle if your hand has 2 more cards in it. Choose a card from your hand, card to standard PG. Nothing to specify about it. Basically, that means if this is only one of the cards in your hand, place it on guard circle, you don't have to sound great, because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game. Like I just said, spam the ever-living hell out of these three. I mean, mainly these two, but this one as well if possible. And then when your opponent does eventually counterattack you when you go down to low enough hand cards, Keflon, middle finger, you're safe. Aura on this PG is very great to have. You can run Aegis Mire Dragon or Paladinium Zeal Dragon. They all have the exact same effect. I just used to make a Keflon because, again, I do like having the theme match here, but also because Keflon came out close to the time of Sarevsael's release, and typically that's what dictates what PG I'm going to give the deck. So 4 copies of Keflon. And then we have the last grade one in the deck. One of them in the right deck, none in the main deck, sadly, but considering this deck Soul Blast enough and you can just Superior Call via Sarevsael, there is a way to actually use a second skill, but only one of them in the right deck, no copies in the main deck of Carrying Sage. Great Own Boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto and Rotopon by Night of Calming Silence Swifthelm. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a Great Trill as normally, you may call it to Rearguard Circle, and if you do not call it, put the reveal card to your hand, then choose card from your hand, discard it, put it to your hand if you did not call and discard a card. The best part about, and I honestly love using this right deck skills, because Carrying Sage is what, you know, Bastion's Fort Grade 1 and what Cherish, the original version for Sylvanhorn Beast, should have done, where they do show the top card, but you don't have to call it, and you can choose to add it to hand, and if you do, you just discard one. But the fact that this thing can get you a free rear guard, because it gets a Great Trail is norminess, you know, you can flip off any of these guys, or it can flip off any of these, or even if you get a Grade 3, or you don't even have to Superior Call. Like, if you flip a PG, it's not telling you call a PG, you can add the PG to hand and then just ditch a card. So all around, Carrying Sage is just good for that ability alone, not forcing you to Superior Call something if you don't want to, but then also continues rear guard during your turn if you have a Great 3 get a Vanguard Sarevsael in the card name, plus 5,000 power. Okay, 13k is not the best in the world, but it's not the worst in the world either. Again, Sarevsael can Superior Call it, so worst case scenario, if you're running low on targets and you really only have triggers in your drop zone and you don't want to use Blade Feather to get your soul back, you can Superior Call this for the turn. It's a 23k because it was called via Sarevsael's ability, and after that, it's a 13k booster and or swinger, so it's a nice one up in the red deck. You don't really need in the main deck because, again, you have plenty of soul boxes to get this guy out from soul into drop zone. Moving on to grade 2s, we have 4 copies of Resurgent Dragon, grade 2 instead 5k shield, 10k base. I love using this thing as a beat stick. Auto place on Rearguard Circle from the drop zone specifically. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, by any means, doesn't matter if the Vanguard's a Sarevsael or not, this unit gets 10,000 power. Cool. 20k just by being placed from drop zone. Easy Superior Call target for Sarevsael. It's a nice beat stick. It literally is no cost to it whatsoever. It's just a good 4 of, especially once your opponent's at grade 2 and you just want to bully down your opponent as much as physically possible. I can't wait for the DZ set star bosses to get actual upgrades that aren't the joke ones from the Koro sets, because if they did, these decks would be so good, especially if like they got the upgrade level of Impero, Vita, and Raksha specifically, where even though they weren't like super big upgrades or flashy upgrades, they were direct upgrades, like how Vita can Superior Call 3 cards. If Sarevsael gained the ability to Superior Call 2, great Lord of Scott, this thing would be busted on grade 2 turn, or grade 3 turn, I mean, so 4 copies of Resurgent either way. I'm just making my point. Moving on, we have 4 copies of Vine Sisters Biscotti. So in the other deck profiles, I did mention how it would be a little bit hard to flip between Counterblast and Energy Blast. In this deck specifically, because A, Virile Core is the best of the supporting grade 3s, and B, it's one of the 2 decks that has, or one of the 3 decks that has access to this grade 1, I'm willing to give Biscotti the 4 of and say that you can swap consistently between Energy Blast and CB, just more so CB, but because you have so many energy charges in this deck. So Biscotti, auto and put on Guard Circle from the hand or discard from your hand or riding from the right deck, CB1 or Energy Blast 3 to draw a card. Again, most of the time you're going to use a CB, but this deck, unlike the other ones, can afford to swap between CB and Energy relatively well because they have plenty of energy charges at their disposal, so being able to draw isn't so hard. And then auto and put on Rearguard Circle if you Persona roll this turn. Doesn't matter if it was Superior called during battle phase, main phase, called from drop zone via so-and-so's effect. You can Counterblast 1 or Energy Blast 3, check the top 3, choose one from among them, put it to your top, and then put the rest on bottom. And if it was not the battle phase, you may call it to Rearguard instead of putting it to top. So either, I mean, like, guarantee you get to see what the top card is. You don't have to Superior Call it if it's not the battle phase. You can choose to still leave it on top, but you can either get an extra Rearguard out of it or just at least guarantee that the next 2 cards out of the next 3 aren't going to be triggers, or you can just send the least useful cards to bottom. Aron Biscotti is a very solid grade 2 to have. She has saved me plenty of times defensively and consistently by discarding her for Ride Deck or Guard Power and either drawing into something that really helps me with defending or drawing into something that I can use to call it to Rearguard and bully down my opponent. And Resurgent Dragon over here. I like to have 4 copies of Biscotti, and there are plenty of, like, and I'll get to this later mainly with Virile Core, but there are plenty of ways to Soul Charge and Keter and selectively get Sarevsaels into Soul to where you can use Virile Core a lot more consistently, even while your opponent's even at grade 2. So 4 copies of Biscotti, she is really easy to manage with CB and energy in this deck, and I think that's honestly what makes this deck very fun to me. The fact that unlike the other DZ start bosses, you can fluctuate as much as you want, and the deck can't really have a reprimand from it. Not reprimand, what's it called? I completely forgot what the word I'm looking for is. as I'm talking too fast for it. Moving on, we have Knight of Pity Grednach. So automatically, I love this card because he has an arrow, and if you don't know, arrows are one of my favorite weapons, along with dual swords. Grade 2 and step 5k shield, 10k baseball, and dual pistols. But we'll move on. Auto when this is placed on rearguard circle. If you have a grade 3 grade of vanguard serve also on the card name, check the top card, put the top or in your soul. If you put a card to your soul, this unit gets 5 as a power for the turn. And this is one of the other examples of getting free cards to soul. In fact, that ability goes off in the best way possible, a lot more often than I thought it would, considering this card just came out in this set, actually. So essentially, it doesn't matter when it's placed on rearguard or how it's placed on rearguard. So again, like Biscotti, you can just place it normally during the main phase, or you can superior call it via Sarevsael, and you just check the top card, and you can leave it on top if it's a trigger, or put it to soul, and it will get 5,000 power. And half the time that I've used this for some reason, it has seen a Sarevsael, meaning I can send that Sarevsael to soul, swing with Virile Core, soul blast out that Sarevsael, and either get a CB back in case I really need CB, or get 3 energy, and well, now I have a free Biscotti. So, more of Grednach, all around, very good grade 2. Get you soul, or get you power along with that soul, or get you just basically a guaranteed trigger on the top of your deck, and it does it all for free. Like, this is honestly a really good grade 2, and it being an on-place rearguard isn't really that bad of a thing, considering Sarevsael can superior column if needed. So 4 of Grednach, just good grade 2. The other thing I really like about this deck is the fact that there's a lot, if you can't tell, I really love this deck, that a lot of the cards do have on-place abilities, but a lot of them don't. So like you can, like you have your obvious call targets, and then you have your call targets where they can just have a skill regardless, so you can just debate on who you're going to call and when, and it won't really make a difference. Moving on, we have Knight of Calming Silence Swift Helm, grade 2 and step 5k shield, 10k base, our last grade 2 in the deck. No copies in the main deck, 1 copy in the red deck, but again, just like Carrying Sage, because there are plenty of soul busters in this deck, if you end up soul busting this out, you can superior call via Sarevsael, worst case scenario. Though I do feel like more often, well, actually, depending on your matchup, you will either call Carrying Sage more or Swift Helm more. If you need to be more defensive, you'll call Swift Helm more, and if you can read ahead, you can already kind of see why. But if you're trying to play more aggressively, you're going to see Carrying Sage more. Anyway, Swift Helm skill, auto and wrote upon by a grade 3 card, serve also on the card name. Choose a great bills from your hand, call to rearguard circle if you call, draw a card. Cool. It's just get a free draw and get a rearguard on board. That's pretty much all it is. It's any card you want. So if you want to call a trigger, your only chance to call Blade Feather without, like, you know, there being a detriment to it. That's the word I was thinking of earlier, not reprimand, detriment. But either way, being able to draw a card for it is pretty nice. And then if you have a grade 3 grade of vanguard serve also in the card name, continues guard circle skill, it has 10k plus shield. So 15k shield overall once you hit grade 3. All around, not making this a bad grade 2 at all. Is really good defensively. And again, if you do need to soul boss it out and superior call via Sarevsael because you're playing against a very aggressive deck and you need the guard power, all around, go for it. Just makes it for a good grade 2. So one of in the red deck, no copies in the main deck. Moving on to our grade 3s, we have 4 copies of Virile Core Dragon. It was my least favorite of the grade 3 support cards in terms of art, and then it became my favorite in terms of skill because it's the only one that, you know, or not the only one, but like it directly benefits Sarevsael for being Sarevsael. Like it plays to the deck's strengths. So grade 3 turns out persona at 13k base. All don't place on rearguard circle from the hand other than during your battle phase. If your vanguard is a grade 3 grade of Sarevsael, CB1, check top 5 to 1, grade those card from bottom, call to rearguard circle, shuffle the deck. Okay, downside is it can't call itself from its skill. I mean, technically it can, but you know, it can't call itself and proc the same skill because it has to be specifically placed from hand. But the downside is, you know, it can't call during the battle phase. Not like it mattered because Sarevsael, even if it did superior call, it wouldn't proc the skill because again, it has to be placed from hand, but is what it is. And then his other ability is auto rearguard once per turn. Once you attack into anything, doesn't matter if it's vanguard, rearguard, doesn't matter the grade. Soul blast 1, this unit gets 5,000 power to end the battle. Then if you soul blast a grade 3 grade card, Sarevsael in the card name for the cost. Plenty of other cards that can send grade 3s to soul. For example, Rubina, who I think has been out since DZ set 2, either that or she was a promo. Her ability is CB1, one place, shove a hand card to soul to draw a card. Or you could use Grednach, or you can use Fupari for more like random soul charging. Her abilities when she boosts a grade 3 soul charge 1, so it's a little less reliant. But you get my point. There are plenty of soul charges and selective soul charges in Keter to where you can guarantee you get Sarevsael and soul before either side gets to grade 3. But point is, if you soul blast a Sarevsael grade 3, counter charge 1, or energy charge 3. The 2 biggest problems with the decks are CB and energy. And honestly, this thing fixes both problems. If you have a CB problem, it's probably because you spam Virile Core 24/7 or Sarevsael skill 24/7, but you can use Virile Core's ability to get that CB back, or at least one of them, or you get a free 3 energy, which granted, it doesn't give you a full Sarevsael, but it means that next turn that you're going to get 3 energy off of, you know, your energy generator, you will pretty much have a free Sarevsael on board. All around, Virile Core is a very good grade 3 for help building up your board via his first skill, and it's not a once per turn, so if you have a second one in hand, you can just superior, or you can just normal call it. And not to mention the fact that it's on attack skill, even though it only gets 5,000 power, it's the best out of all of the grade 3 support cards because it gives you resources back so you can use your skill. I love this card a lot. I think it's really good, and ultimately it's what makes me really like Sarevsael, so 4 copies of Virile Core Dragon. And finally, we have our main grade 3, the man, the myth, the legend himself, who has a bow, which automatically makes me love him even more. Salvation Wing Angel Sarevsael. Grade 3, 200 persona, 13k base, act Vanguard, once per turn, counterboss 1, search after 1 copy of himself, reveal it, put your hand, shuffle your deck, and this uses his power for that turn. Cool. 23k, search your deck for a copy of himself, pretty easy to do. Following that, auto Vanguard, willing to attacks into a Vanguard by energy blasting 4, choose any grade 3 as a normal unit from your drop zone, call it to rear guard circle. Okay, remember earlier when I said you could superior call Blade Feather from that? Yeah, scratch that. I never actually did that play, I just kept saying it because I thought it was an option, I forgot that it has to be a normal unit. But either way, superior call something, give it 10,000 power for that turn. Cool. Simple energy blast 4, call a target, give it 10k, rush your opponent down with it, or superior call a grade 1 with it, or if you really want to, call a Blade Feather and then just pretend that it's a normal unit and then hope that your opponent doesn't notice the difference like I didn't notice the difference for about most of this video. Either way though, being able to superior call a unit is great and give it 10k on top of that is even better, and again give itself 10k is great as well. The only downside with this deck is compared to the other DZ Dark decks that I built is that this deck doesn't really have a way to recycle Sarevsael. Like if you look at the other ones, they have like those grade 1 support cards that can return them to deck to do XYZ, but in this case I don't think the deck needs it because you honestly get good enough numbers already. Like again, this is going to give you consistent resources. You will always be able to use Sarevsael. He can search himself for Persona Rides, and Grednach over here can send him to Soul, so you can, trigger this ability a little bit earlier, which means you can be a little bit more aggressive earlier on because the CB might be a problem. You have Painkiller over here who can help draw your hand cards and deck thin. You have Surgical Angels who can superior call, get you more energy, and keep returning your units to hand. And you have Turot who can just stall you a little bit longer if you really need to go for stall games. And you have plenty of good attacking options and plenty of good defending options as well to keep yourself alive. All around, Sarevsael is just a very good grade 3 who has a lot of good support cards around him, and that's mainly due just to Keter, being very quote-unquote vague with a lot of their effects and just having a lot of good generic support cards all around. So I like having this guy as like a 3 in the main deck, 1 up in the red deck. He's just a really amazing grade 3, and there are so many different ways you can build this deck. This is just one of them, and I really like this one. Now, without further ado, that's it for the deck profile. I think it's honestly really cool that the deck can just make a board out of nowhere, and then again, you call the double grade 1s, you then go to your grade 2 turn, you move the grade 1s back, you call whatever grade 2s you want. Typically, it's 2 of these for me, or like 1/1, and then you boost a Painkiller, you Soul Blast, you draw, and then you just use your bunch of superior call skills and retires to keep your board keep going, and then just attack your opponent for pretty much game and just overall with a bunch of attacks. And also, just one more thing I like about Sarevsael is he has a random feather back here in the background. Either way, that's it for this one. Hope all of you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join Twitch. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to set up your Vanguards.